Hello friends, I'm Madhav from Easy Approach, and in this video we are going to integrate Google Sign-in and People API from Google APIs that will help us get the context of the user associated with his or her Gmail account. So by the end of the video, we would have the application something like this. So we would have a login screen on which we will have a Google Sign-in login button. So on pressing the button, the app will show an account picker, and you can select any account of which you want to see the context. Because I want to see my own context, so I can select my whole own account. And once the user logged in, the app will show all the contacts associated or actually saved in the account that I just logged in. So you can see all the contacts, and these are the genuine ones. So if I want to see the contact number, so I can select one, and you can see the snack bar is showing phone numbers, blah blah blah. So this is what we are going to have after the video is completed. We are starting from the brand new application of Flutter that I've just created. So first of all, we are going to add dependencies that we are going to use in this project. So the first dependency that we are going to use is HTTP Flutter, that we will use for making HTTP requests, that we will do actually for getting the context of the user associated with any Gmail account. So you can go in the installation tab and you can find this line, and you just need to paste this after Cupertino icons. The second dependency that we are going to use is actually Google Sign In. So this is actually the package which will allow us to sign in to the Google. So you can just go in installation tab like you did before, and you just need to copy this line, and you can paste after HTTP. And just to get this package, you can click on this package get, and this would install these packages, and then we can use these packages. And there we go. Now we have the packages installed. Now the second thing that we have to do is we have to create a project on Firebase, because we need to have it to use the Google sign-in. So I've just created this project. So after creating the project, what you have to do is you have to integrate or register your application on this project. So you can do it for iOS and you can do it for Android. So first of all, we are doing it for Android. Now, first thing first, we have to provide here the Android package name, or it is also Android application name. So for getting this, what we have to do, we have to go inside the Android subfolder. And inside the Android subfolder, we have application folder, and inside it, we have application level Gradle file. And inside it, you can find the application ID. So it is actually the Android package name for your project. So you can copy this line and you can paste in the configuration or registration of your app in Firebase. Now, the second thing is we have the app nickname. So you can obviously give anything. So let's name it contact app. And then we have the SHA-1 certificate that we have to provide. And you can see it's optional, but still we have to provide it because we will use some feature that actually requires it. So for getting this SHA-1 certificate, what you can do, you can open the Android subproject separately. And for doing it, you can right click on your subproject directory. And inside the Flutter, you have the open Android module. So this will open the Android module project actually as a separate project. And once it is completely synced, what you can do, you can open this Gradle from the right side. And inside the Android, we have app. And inside the app, we have task. Inside the task, we have build. No. Yeah. Inside the Android, we have signing report. So you can just double click on it, and this will generate the SHA-1 for you. So here you can see this is the SHA-1 certificate. You can copy this. So you can copy this and you can paste here. And after this, you can click on this register app. Okay, now what we have to do, we have to download this google-services.json file. And after downloading it, let's look at it. So here it is. What you can do, let's close this project. And inside the, here it is actually the Flutter project. So you can see inside the Android, we have this application project. So what we have to do, we have to drag this Google services.json file in this app project. Sorry, in this app folder. So now after this step, we have to go back to the Firebase and we have to click next. And now we have to add this line. You can copy it and you have to add in project level Gradle build file. So what we can do, inside the Android, we have the build.gradle and you can paste it. Let me see where you have to paste. It's actually in the build script and inside the dependency. So let's see where is build script, and here it is. You have to paste it here. Now the second thing that we have to do is we have some line to paste. So first of all, copy this line, which is form.google blah blah blah, and we have to open the app level Gradle build file, and after this apply plugin line, you have to paste this line. And then we have to go back and we have a couple of more lines to add. These are the ones that will go inside the dependencies. So let's come at the bottom and let's paste this. Let's go back, and this is actually for Firebase analytics. So let's paste it as well. And once it is done, you can close the application and you can reopen it so that it syncs all the file that we have, all the dependencies that we have just added in native level. Now let's maximize this screen because we don't need to have simulator every time. So now we have actually integrated Firebase with our project. We have registered the project. We have registered the application into the context project that we created. And for the iOS, you can also do for the iOS, you can click on it and you can perform the operation, but it's just a simple one. I think you can do it. So if you have any issue while integrating iOS project, you can comment, but just to save the time, we are just doing it for Android. Now let's do some coding, and first let's create a view for the login screen actually. So what I'm doing, I'm going inside the lib, and inside it, I'm gonna create login screen. And we are going to create a stateful widget for this screen. And because we are going to manage the state using a stateful widget to keep things simple as possible, that is why I'm using a stateful widget. Although you can also use provider or some other state management stuff. Let's give it a name, login screen. And let's import material.dart file. There we go. Now inside the build, I'm using a scaffold as a root widget to implement the material UI structure. And in the main.dart file, I'm gonna delete all the existing code. The home will be our login screen. And let's remove this my home page, which is the pre-coded stuff comes with the default project. Now in the login screen, I'm gonna create a widget for the login stuff that we had actually a button, a login Google sign-in button and some text before it. So let's create widget. I'm going to create a function that will return widget just to keep code clean. So we can return a column widget because we have a couple of widgets in a vertical axis. So the first thing we have is the text. And let's have some space between these two, between the text and the button that we are going to have. So we can use size box for it, and we can give 16 pixels. And after this, we're gonna have a flat button. And inside the on press, right now I'm just giving nothing, but we'll surely have something inside it. And in the child, we can give a text widget with some text like Google sign in. And let's have some colors on the button. Let's make it dark gray. And let's change the text color to white. And now, okay, so we can also increase the size of the text above the button so that it looks a little prominent. Like 24. And now inside the scaffold, first let's make an app bar with a title. You can give any title. I'm giving contact app. And in the body, what we can do, let's first make a container so that we can have a little padding around the content that will go inside this container. So let's have some padding. Maybe 16 pixels padding everywhere. And in the child, right now, we will give get login widget, which is just a static widget. Now let's run the application to see how it looks on the emulator. So this is actually the emulator and application. So this is how it looks. It's not in the vertical center. So for doing it, we can, okay, in the login screen, let's see the code. So first of all, what we can do, we can give this container some width. So we can give it a maximum width. And also for making the content in the center, we can give main axis alignment center. So this is main axis alignment dot center. Okay, so let's refresh it and see the result. Okay, so now it's in the center. And now for making this login button functional, because we have to perform the sign in operation inside on pressing of this button. So definitely we are going to use the Google plugin, Google sign in plugin that we have added at the start of the video in PubSpec. And that actually provides a feature which is sign in that we will use for signing into the user account. So for accessing that feature, we first need to have the Google sign in object so that we can use that feature. So for getting that, we have to make Google sign in object. The type should be Google sign in, and let's make the name Google sign in. And we have to import this file. And there's no file yet. I think we haven't installed the plugin successfully. Okay, so it is saying that now it is installed. So let's try again. Okay, so now we have the Google sign in declared. And now inside the init state, so inside the init state method, so we need to override this. And we have super.init state, and then inside it, we can initialize this Google sign in. So for initializing, what we can do, simply you can write the name and then you can use the constructor Google sign in. And there's one more thing that we have to do inside the Google sign in constructor. We have a property which is actually scopes. So we have to define the list of scopes. Actually, a scope defines the level of information you can access after logging into the user account. Because to the Gmail account, there are a lot of information associated. So after logging in, whatever you want to access, whatever the information we want to access, you have to define inside the scope. And if you haven't defined in the scope and you're trying to get that information, so it will definitely not allow you to do so. And because we want to access apart from the basic information like name and email, we have to access the user's context. So in order to do so, we have to define that scope. So in order to get that scope, or in fact any scopes that is actually available, so we can write here Google developer scope, and you can open the first URL. And because we have to access the user context, so actually there's people API, and inside it we have these scopes. So you can see the detail also, because we just want to access, see and download the context. So we can definitely use this one. So we just need to paste this in the scopes. So it should be string. And as we now have the Google sign-in object, we can definitely use it for signing in process. So as you know, we have the flat button, and inside the on press, we have to perform the signing in process. So first of all, I'm making this on press asynchronous because inside it, I'm gonna use future that's actually available inside Google sign in. So we definitely have to add this async. And after this, we have inside the Google sign in, we have sign in that actually opens the dialog or account picker, and user can select the account and he can log in. And just to make sure that it works properly, what we can do, we can wrap this thing and try and catch. And if we get any exception, so inside the catch, we can just print the exception just to know what exception we are getting. And since this sign in is actually a future, so we can use here await, although it's optional because of what we are going to do, but I'll just add it. Now this sign in future, once it is called, this will open the account picker and the user can provide his email, password and all that stuff. And once the user provided everything and he gets logged into the to the account, so we will get the user instance that would have the information about the user, some basic information like display name, like email and all that basic stuff. And this is how we will know that we actually successfully logged into the account. So for getting that user, what we can do, there are actually two ways, but we are going to do using a stream. So inside the Google sign-in, we have on current user change. This stream, every time it gets called or it actually receives some data, or actually the user, whenever the sign in or sign out operation performs. So once the user would be signed in, so we can listen to this stream, and inside it here we will receive the user instance. So we will receive the instance every time once the user will log in, and once he will perform the logout. So once he will perform the login, so definitely we will get some information and the user would not be null. However, in the case of logging out, this user instance will be null. But just keep in mind that this user, we will get the user data every time, whether it is null or not, once the login performs or the logout performs. Now, to save this user that's actually just logged into the account, we can make a global variable, because we have to use that account information in different places. So we can make Google sign in account, and this is actually current user. Oh my god. Okay. So inside it, once we receive the user, so irrespective whether it's null or not, because this will also be used as a flag to make sure that user is logged in. So if the user instance or this user object is not null, so it means user is successfully logged in, or it is null, so it means he performs the logout operation. So what we can do, we can, inside the set state, we can initialize this current user to the user that we have just received. And just for the sake of testing, we can print some information from the user account on the console, so that we can know he's actually logged in successfully. So let's minimize this so that we can also see the emulator, and we can also see the terminal. So the application is now refresh. Now let's tap on this button. Okay, now we can select any account. This should show the display name of my account on the console if everything works correct. Okay, so we are getting some platform exception. I think we didn't enable the Google sign-in service from the Firebase project. So I think I missed it. So let's add this as well. So let's open the Firebase project and let's refresh it. You can see the app is added. So inside the authentication, so let's first click on get started. And we have the Google here. So let's click on it and we can just enable this. And here you have to specify the email. So let's provide here the email, and you can just click on save. Now after enabling this, our code should run properly. So let's restart the application, even though it's not required actually. But let's restart it and let's tap on this Google sign in. And let's choose some account. Okay, so now you can see when I click on next, so it's asking me the permission that if I allow it, so this app will use the context that is actually stored in your account. So definitely we need to allow it. And after successful login, this should now show us the display name of my user, that is Mars Aftab. Yeah, so it's asking about that. Do you want to trust this project? Yeah, because we are doing it. So, okay. So today my laptop is not working fine because it's so slow. I don't know the reason. So you can see we have gotten the name Mars Aftab. That's actually my display name. So it means we are good to continue, and the code that we have done so far, the integration of the Google sign in, it's fine and it's working. And as we have now the Google sign in working, we can work on getting the context that is actually associated with the current account with this current user. So let's do the code for that. But before doing code for fetching the contacts against the current user, we first need to enable the people API from the Google Developer Console. So let's open the Developer Console. And let's first choose the project that we are working in right now. So it's actually context. So you can select it and let's click on open. And now inside this project, you can search for the people API in the search bar. Here it is. And you can enable it. So now it is enabled, and that's the first thing you have to do in order to fetch the context against the user. Now let's make a feature for fetching the context against the current user. So I'm making future. Right now I'm not giving it any return type, and just giving it a name, get user contacts. And let's use here async, since we will be using the HTTP get request, and that is actually future, so we have to write here async. Now inside this future, we have to make the HTTP get request, and we have an endpoint that is provided by Google APIs to get the context. So what you have to do first, we can go on this console where we have enabled the Google API, the people API, and we can go in tutorials and documentation, and in learn more, we can find in read and manage context. So this is actually the endpoint for getting the contexts. So you can see it's actually the endpoint. This is get request, and you can also specify the person fields, what data you want to know with the user contact, like name, email addresses, and we have the phone numbers also. And this is actually the host of for this API. So let's first copy this host so that we can have it in the code. So I'm making it final host equals to, and don't forget to include HTTPS. Also, let's get the endpoint. So you can copy from here to here. And you can paste it. And I don't want to get the email address, rather I want phone numbers. So you can just change the email addresses to phone numbers. And as now we have the host and the endpoint. So this host is actually the base URL for the API. And this is actually the GET request for getting the context. So what we can do, we can use the HTTP package for making GET requests. So firstly, you need to import http:// and you have to give some alias, because inside this we have some futures. So we can make a final variable with the name request. And now we can use HTTP, just HTTP, the alias that we have given. And inside it we have GET request. So this GET request is actually a future that returns a response object. So as it is a future, we have to use here await also. And in the URL, we first have to define the host, and then we have the endpoint. And we also have to provide the header, which is the authentication header that contains the access token and all that stuff. So we basically get the header or the access token and all that stuff with the current user that's actually logged in currently. So for getting the header, we can, inside the current user, we have auth headers. That's actually a feature that returns map string comma string. So it returns the header in the map form. So because it's a feature, we can use await, and we should, and we can provide this header information to this URL or to this request. This actually tells the, or it actually verifies that the current user which is requesting for the data is actually authorized, and he can get the data. And just for the sake of testing, before making the request, we can print on the console that will say loading context. We will change it to a proper progress indicator on the screen, but right now just do it so that we can test it. Loading completed. And now after the API request, API calling, we can check the request status if it is okay or not. So for the okay status, it is actually 200. So we have to compare the status code with 200. And if it is equal, then it means the API working fine. And along with this, we can print the body of the request. That will be obviously the detail of the context, like numbers and their names. And in case we didn't get status 200, it means API didn't work as we want. So it may be due to certain reasons. There could be many. So we can still print the request.body. It will contain the error that will be sent by Google. So this is it for now. It's not actually enough right now, because we have to do some more thing. We have to call this future once user successfully logged in. So how we know that user is successfully logged in is we can check when we receive the user instance, we can check if user is not null. So it means the user is logged in successfully. So if that is true, we can call this load contexts, or what was the name? Okay, get user context. I think this is fine. Okay, so now let's run the application. So let's open the console also so that we can see if we get the response or not. Okay, so let's tap on this Google sign in. This will first perform the sign in operation. And you can see we are okay. So we are getting some data. So you can see we are getting the API working perfect, and we are getting the response also. That's great. So this is actually the response, and we need to parse it into the real Dart object so that we can show it on the screen. And you can copy this thing, and you can use quicktype.io for generating the Dart code for converting this JSON into Dart object. And for getting this correct JSON response, you can either go in the documentation, or also you can also debug the body of the request, so you can find the whole response. So what I'm doing, I have already pasted the whole response that I'm getting, and I have given it a name of Google Contacts. So this is the whole file for generating, or actually, yeah, generating the JSON to a Dart object. So we just need to make a model file. I'm not really focusing on proper architecture. I'm just making things because the main concern is achieving what we are right now working on. So let's make it Google underscore con. Oh my god. So let's delete this and let's create it again. Google underscore contact model. And inside it, you can paste the whole code. And you can see this is actually the function Google Contacts from JSON that will convert from JSON into the Google Contacts object. And it has all the things that we are getting, the connections, and inside the connections, we have the phone numbers, we have the names and all that stuff. Now for parsing, what we can do, let's go on login screen, and inside the get user context, rather than just printing here, we can first make a global variable of Google Contacts. And then we can use Google Contacts from JSON. And here we can pass the request.body, which is the JSON format. And we have to make it context equals to. And let's do it inside set state so that it updates the UI also if necessary. Great. Also, I'm creating a bool variable for loading. So we will show a loader while making HTTP requests. So by default, there will be no loading. So it's actually default. By default, it's false. But before loading, before actually calling this API, we will use set state, and inside it we will use is loading equals to true. Means now we have to show the loader, and once we have done with the calling, we can do it. We can make it false. And now we have, as we now have the variable for managing the loader, and we also have the converted contacts object that contains all the information like usernames and all the phone numbers of their against their names. So it contains all the information. We can have a proper UI for showing the list of contacts actually. So let's make the UI for those for that case. So first of all, we have to check if we have is loading true. So if is loading is true, we can show inside the center, we can show a circular progress indicator. Else, for now, we will show the screen or the view that we are currently showing, the login view. And but what we can do, we can rather remove the code from here because this will make this widget messy. We can rather do it on body level. So if is loading is true, then show circular progress indicator in center. Else, show the login widget. However, if we have context not null, it means the user is logged in and we have the context list, and we also have the current user not null. So if that's the case, we have to use here double and sign. And if that's the case, we have to use here get contact list widget because we have the current user logged in and we also have the contacts. Then why not show the list rather than showing login screen? Else, we can just go with the get login widget that is by default we were showing. So we don't have this get list contact list widget. So let's write the code for it. It's basically a function that will return a widget, and the name is get contact list widget. So for this widget, we can return list view dot separated. So we are using separated so that every single item looks separated. There will be a separator between all. So for first of all, for item builder, we first have to give a context and then index of the current item that is rendering, and same with the separator builder, context and index, and we can just return divider here. And for the item count, let's format this first. For the item count, we can use the response that we got. So it is actually Google context or just context, and inside it we have connections. So the connections is actually the detail of the context. So we have to get the length of connections, and for each connection we have to build a list style or an item inside the list. So inside it we can use list style for showing the information of each of the contact or the connection. And for the title, we can use text widget. And in here, we can use inside the contacts, we have connections. And let's make a variable first so that it will be a little easier. Final current connection or current contact. And this should be context.connections, and here we have to specify the index. So this will be the current contact that needs to be rendered on the screen. So now we can use the current contact, and inside it we have names, list of names. So if you have used the Google contact, yeah, you know that we can give multiple names, but there will be only one primary name. So I'm just using first. Normally we have only one name, but we can give multiple as well. And for the subtitle, no, we don't need to have any subtitle because we will show the number on tapping so that the number is not visible for everyone. So let's make on tap. And on tapping, I'm using a scaffold to show the snack bar. I have to specify the context. So because we need the context, so I think we have to pass the context from the body, and we can use show snack bar, and inside it we can make a snack bar object, and in the content we can just make a text widget, and here we can just say phone number is and we can use current contact. Inside it we have phone numbers, and we can have multiple phone numbers against a single user, so I'm just going to print first. Okay, so inside it we have value, so we have to print a value also with the name. Okay, so inside the name we have again further information, so let's use display name. So that's it. We have specified the item counts, we have specified the divider, and I think this is good. Just we need to pass here the context since we have changed it. Okay, so now let's run the application. So if I click on this Google sign in, so you can see it's currently trying to perform login. And now it's showing the loader also because we have used here. And also it's showing the list of all the contacts. If I tap on anyone, so you can see it's showing the phone number is blah, 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 blah. So I think this is it. We have integrated we have integrated Google sign-in, then we have integrated People API, and we have also worked with the UI also. But there's one more thing that we need to perform is the sign out operation or the sign out functionality, because user logged in and he cannot right now perform the sign out. So let's do some code for it. So for the sign out, I'm gonna have a floating action button here, and on clicking that button, user can sign out from the app. But the sign out button will only visible when someone is logged in. It's obvious we cannot show it on the login screen. So let's have floating action button, and let's first check if current user is not null, or if he is null, it means no one is right now signed in, so we can just use empty container. Else we will show floating action button. And inside the on press, let's format the code. Before the on press, let's have child, which will be icon, and the icon will be log out icon. There it is. Let's refresh. So now we have the icon also. And inside the on press, we can use the Google sign in, and we can perform sign out. Here it is. So we can again wrap this thing in try and catch, so that if we get any exception, we can catch it like we did while signing in. And you can print this exception on the console. Okay, so let's restart the application to check the sign out functionality also. So you can see right now I'm actually in the app and logged in, and that is why I can see the context. And since I refreshed the application, I need to sign in again. So let's tap on the sign in. So it's performing sign in, and it's loading the contacts, and they are loaded. And now if I tap on it, let's open the console also if we get some error. So this should take user back to the first screen. And okay, so you can see the user is now logged out. And since we are trying to display it or print the display name uh, when user change, and we can only do it once user is not null. Although we were doing it for testing purpose, we can get rid of this, but still if you want to keep it, you should keep it outside inside this block, so that you can make sure that user is not null. And this is, you can only print this thing only in the case of signing in, not in the case of signing out. So I think this is it from this video. That was a little detailed video in which we have integrated the Google sign-in. We have worked with the Google API, People API, and we combined together to make something reasonable, meaningful. So this is it from this video. If you like the video, please give a big thumbs up and subscribe the channel. My laptop was not working fine. It was really slow, and I had to work really hard to complete that video. But anyways, it's only for you guys, and support me by subscribing my channel. I'm totally tired. So thank you for watching.